My uncle said I was a disgrace to the family until I found his missing daughter alive. Uncle Lawrence told me I'd ruined the family name at Thanksgiving dinner in front of 37 relatives, his voice loud enough that conversation stopped at every table in my grandmother's house. He'd been drinking since noon, bourbon straight with ice that clinked against crystal when he gestured at me with his glass. He said my father would be ashamed of how I'd turned out, that dropping out of law school to become a private investigator was an insult to 3 generations of attorneys who'd built our reputation. He said I was chasing conspiracy theories and divorce cases instead of doing real work that mattered. My Aunt Philippa had touched his arm, trying to quiet him, but he'd shrugged her off and continued. He'd said the Harrington name meant something in this city, that judges and politicians and business leaders respected us, and I was dragging that legacy through the mud by working for criminals and cheaters. I'd left before dessert, driving back to my studio apartment above a pawn shop on the east side, where the Harrington name meant absolutely nothing. My phone had buzzed with texts from cousins saying Uncle Lawrence was drunk and didn't mean it, but I'd heard the same speech sober at my father's funeral 2 years ago. Lawrence had made it clear then that I was a disappointment, that quitting Columbia Law after 1 semester proved I didn't have the discipline or intelligence to continue the family tradition. Never mind that I'd quit because the student loans were drowning me and my father's gambling debts had consumed every dollar of the inheritance I'd expected. Never mind that private investigation let me use the research skills I'd actually enjoyed from law school without the crushing debt. Lawrence saw only failure and embarrassment. The call came at 2:13 in the morning 3 days after Thanksgiving. I'd been asleep for maybe an hour, having spent most of the night reviewing surveillance footage for a workman's comp fraud case. The phone screen showed Aunt Philippa's number, and I'd answered expecting some family emergency with my grandmother. Instead, Philippa had been crying so hard I could barely understand her words. She'd said Vanessa was missing, that her 17-year-old daughter hadn't come home from school, that her phone was going straight to voicemail. She'd said the police were involved but treating it like a runaway situation, telling them to wait 24 hours before filing a report. She'd begged me to help find her niece because she knew I had connections the police didn't, resources that could start searching immediately. I'd asked if Lawrence knew she was calling me, and there'd been a long pause before Philippa had said no, that he'd forbidden her from contacting me about anything. She'd said he was so angry about Vanessa disappearing that he wasn't thinking clearly, that he'd spent hours screaming at the police about their incompetence instead of actually helping search. She'd said she didn't care what Lawrence thought anymore, that finding Vanessa mattered more than family politics. I told her to send me everything she had, every photo, every detail about Vanessa's last known location, every name of friends and teachers, and anyone Vanessa had mentioned recently. I'd said I'd start immediately even though Lawrence would probably sue me for interfering. The files came through within minutes. Vanessa Harrington, 17 years old, honor student at Riverside Preparatory Academy, captain of the debate team, early acceptance to Princeton already secured. Last seen leaving school at 3:15 on Monday afternoon, captured on security camera getting into a silver sedan that didn't belong to anyone in the family. Her phone had pinged near the interstate around 4:30, then went completely dark. No activity on social media since Monday morning. No credit card purchases. No contact with any of her known friends. Just vanished like she'd been erased from existence. I pulled up the security footage Philippa had somehow obtained from the school. The timestamp showed Vanessa walking across the parking lot with her backpack, looking down at her phone. A silver Toyota Camry had pulled up beside her, and she'd gotten in voluntarily. No signs of struggle or hesitation. I couldn't see the driver clearly through the tinted windows, but Vanessa had smiled when the door opened, like she recognized whoever was inside. That detail mattered. She hadn't been grabbed off the street by a stranger. She'd gone willingly with someone she knew or at least felt comfortable with. I started with Vanessa's social media, scrolling back through months of posts. The public-facing version showed a perfect student with perfect grades and perfect friends, all carefully curated photos at debate tournaments and charity events. But social media lies, especially for teenagers from wealthy families who understand that everything they post becomes evidence of their character. I needed to see what Vanessa was really thinking, who she was really talking to, what she was hiding from her parents. I called in a favor from a hacker named Desmond, who owed me for not turning him in on a previous case. He could access deleted messages and private accounts that most people assumed were completely erased. Desmond called back 40 minutes later with information that shifted the entire case. Vanessa had a secret. Full story is linked below.